What is up, and welcome back, my juicy baddie queens. This is the Juicy Truth. I am Dr. Jenny. If you are new here, welcome. So good to have you. If you're coming back, hello, I love you. We are on episode 4, and it's going to be extra juicy. I mean, I feel like I'm going to say that every episode, but today we are talking all about how to get what you want in bed. And no, we're not talking about sleeping. So it's going to be real juicy. If you don't know this yet by now, put some headphones in. I'm going to swear we're going to be talking about sex. You've been warned. So, this topic in particular, how to get what you want in bed, I think is of the utmost importance for us women in particular. But just in general, as a rule of thumb, I think the world is a much better place, much more peaceful place, a much happier place when we're all well fucked. And I stand behind that because I think a lot of problems could be solved if we all had more fulfilling sex lives. So today in this episode, I am setting out to help you at least improve yours and, maybe go out and talk to your girlfriends about doing the same because I have heard from a lot of women, a lot of clients, a lot of patients over the years, random strangers in bars who tell me about their sex lives. Yes, this happens. That there's so many women and men and people of all kinds who are experiencing really unfulfilling sex lives. And that to me is just the most heartbreaking thing because sex and pleasure should add so much value to your life, to your relationship with yourself, to your partner, with others. And if it's not fulfilling and if it's not feeling good, you're not getting what you want, more than likely, you're not going to want more. If you're having mediocre, vanilla, blah sex, do you think you're really going to be craving any more of it? So I talk with a lot of women who are experiencing concerns with their libido, a complex topic. We'll probably do a whole episode about it because it's so much more than just your hormones and all of that. But so many women are coming to me with concerns about their libido, like they're just not desiring sex anymore or as much as they used to. And then I ask them that question is like, well, do you enjoy the sex that you're having? And if you answer no to that question, like, yeah, it makes fucking sense why you're not craving sex if the sex that you're having doesn't feel good. It's not pleasurable. It's not getting you what you need. So I want you to walk away from this episode having a clearer path to knowing what you actually want, what you need, and how to ask for it, how to get it, whether that's from yourself or a partner. So the world is a much better place when we all advocate for our desires, when we know what we want, when we know how to ask for it. But we all know sex tends to be a really shameful, really powerfully charged scenario, and it can be often hard to know how to advocate for ourselves and what we desire, and even hell, like even knowing what we desire. So if the sex that you're having right now doesn't feel good, you're not desiring it, we got to do something about that, sis. Because for many, many, many years of my life, I held so much shame around sexuality, sensuality. I was absolutely completely disconnected from that area of my body. Like she did not exist. I didn't know what she looked like. I never touched her. I again, we can go down a lot of rabbit holes, but I think a lot of this like internalized shame and discomfort around my body and sexuality and all of that, from growing up in a religious background where it's like you only have sex to procreate and you only have sex with your husband or wife. Like everything else is bad, everything else is off limits. Like that just internally sets up so much shame and so much discomfort around even thinking about what we desire. And I think as women, there's so much less of a focus around pleasure as well. I mean, we all learn from whether it's from sex education or Cosmo magazine or on TV or whatever it is of like how to give a man pleasure. But how often are we actually exposed to information that helps women know how they can receive pleasure and how sex can feel really good for them? I sure as hell didn't receive that information until my late 20s. So there was many years of, my teenage years, my early 20s where, I just felt so uncomfortable with this area of my life. I was completely turned off from that, which is a shame because as a woman, your sexual energy, your sensual energy is magnetic as fuck. It is powerful as fuck. Like you have a woman walk into a room that's ovulating and she's feeling herself, like everybody would have a hard time not staring, not being attracted to, not being magnetized to that woman. There's just so much power locked up in that sensual and sexual expression for women. And as well, all people who are turned on and in that like sexual, sensual energy are magnetic as fuck. So I was just so turned off from that life force, so disconnected, like literally don't talk to me about it, don't touch me, don't like anything. And backpedal a few years, like this came about, yes, from shame that was internalized from a young age with, religion and cultural and society, all those influences. But then I ended up undergoing like a really traumatic experience around my sexuality, when I was 16, and that significantly changed this little relationship that I had to my body at the time. It really reinforced these beliefs that like, oh, sex is bad. Bad things happen to me when I express myself in this way, and my body's not safe. So if you've been somebody who's experienced any sort of sexual trauma, any sort of manipulation around the safety of your body, the safety of sex in your body, like just to say I fucking hear you, and I know how hard it is to recover your sensuality and your sexuality after going through an experience like that. Of course, if we have our safety compromised, we have our boundaries crossed, we have some sort of physical abuse or sexual abuse, it can feel easier or safer to disconnect from this part of us. And that's what happened for me. I didn't even acknowledge verbally or even, mentally what had happened to me until I was 27 years old. So almost 10 years later, I finally put the pieces together after 10 years of being completely disconnected. And if I did have any sex, it was not enjoyable. It was more so for, the man that I was with. And that's not the fucking point, If you're here on this earth and having sexual relationship with somebody else or yourself, like you want it to feel good. Especially as, somebody who owns a vulva, there is anatomical structures that are basically purely designed for pleasure. If that's not a sign that like sex is meant to be enjoyed, then I don't know what the fuck would be. So I spent, probably a decade and a half of my life either avoiding sex or any sexual contact or expression of that, or even talk about that. I'd get so uncomfortable. Like 15-year-old me, if she knew I was like talking on a podcast about sex right now, she would be hiding in her room. So ashamed. But I'm so proud of the journey that I have gone through, going from this like incredibly repressed, religious teenager and 20-something-year-old who wouldn't even touch herself, wouldn't even look in the mirror at my body when I was naked, definitely didn't enjoy any sex, had her boundaries crossed, went through really traumatic experiences around sexuality, to the point where I am now in a very like fulfilling relationship, sexually with myself and with my partner. Like that to me is like a big moment of pride. So if you can relate to any parts of, my story and having had a previous experience, first of all, I'm sorry if you've gone through something that's painful around your sexuality, but don't give up hope. Your sexual energy, your sensual energy is sacred, and it's there within you when you feel safe to let it express. And we're going to talk about some ways to do that. So whether you are completely disconnected and turned off, or you're like, yeah, I'm turned on and I have great sex and I just want to have better sex, all is welcome in this episode. But one of the number one things that we need to do if we want to get what we want in bed, number one is you have to feel safe and connected in your body to have good sex. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you have a really negative or painful relationship with yourself, with your body, especially your sexuality, it's going to be pretty hard for you to, and I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's going to be a little bit harder for you to actually enjoy sex and find pleasure and be able to receive it and be able to give it. So if this is something that's a concern for you, like I want you to place the main focus on just feeling safe in your body. And if that means you start with other practices, like from episode 2 on how to get more connected with your body to, even outside of a sexual experience, please do that first, because you need to have the inherent safety within your body before allowing anybody else to be in your sexual energy, in order for it to feel safe and in order for it to feel pleasurable for you. So if you need to go back to episode 2 to get ideas on how to connect back into your body, how to start forging a better relationship with her, if you feel like you have a lot of negative self-talk or just not a great relationship with yourself already, this is something that you want to really prioritize if you're looking to have better sex and if you're looking to, really get what you want in the bedroom. The inner relationship that you have to yourself, to your body, to yourself as a sexual being is a really crucial part of the puzzle. If you are very disconnected from that side of you, if she doesn't feel safe, if you don't, have love or at least acceptance for these parts of you, pleasure is not going to be at the forefront of your experience around sex. And that's the point. We're going to have a really hard time surrendering and being able to actually receive pleasure and have it feel good and not feel really shameful or triggering or unsafe. So number one, most important thing is that if you have had any sort of negative experiences around sexuality, whether that is all the way to the level of some sort of abuse that had happened to you, negative experience around sex, over to the other side of like just having a lot of internalized shame and things that you experienced growing up with, with society and with cultural influences, you got to start feeling safe and connected into your body. Number one. So go back to episode 2, learn about some ways you can really connect into her, get more embodied, and then come back to this, because then that's going to help you be able to connect to yourself in a different way to experience pleasure. The second thing that you need to do to get what you want in bed is get clear on what you want. And I know I sound like Captain Obvious here, but your partner cannot read your mind. I know that we want them to so badly. We want our partners to know exactly what we like in bed, what feels good for us, what turns us on, what turns us off. But if you don't even know that, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of your partner figuring that out, and they certainly can't read your mind. Maybe on some level they can, but it's going to be really difficult for them to be able to give you the type of, stimulation or pleasure that you need if you don't even know what you want. So the biggest thing that I recommend is having some sort of self-pleasure practice. And if you grew up like me and that felt really shameful and like I would go to hell if I did that for a long time, you got to start deconditioning some of those beliefs and remind yourself that even if you need to repeat some sort of mantra of like, I deserve to feel good. It's okay for me to be in my body. It's okay and safe for me to explore my sexuality, my sensuality, whatever kind of belief reworking that you need to do to feel more comfortable about having a self-pleasure practice, highly, highly encourage, because you are your safest sex partner. You are the person that's going to give you the least amount of judgment or shame from an external source. And you don't have to worry about communicating what feels good, what doesn't. You get instant biofeedback. So if you're able to experiment in finding out what you do like through some sort of self-pleasure, first of all, you're going to get better results because you can connect into your body and know what feels good rather than being like, that feels okay. Like, do it this way. Like, it's just so hard to communicate about what you want if you don't even know. So starting to experiment, without that shame. And if there is a lot of shame around self-pleasure, like you got to dive into that, and we can always do that together. Unpacking the shame, not the self-pleasure. So if you need to rewrite some of those beliefs around the actual practice of self-pleasure, like I really, really invite you to do so in reminding yourself that it is safe, that it is not a shameful experience, because if you can allow yourself to experience and experiment in this way, again, you are your safest sex partner. You're going to get the best result because you get immediate biofeedback. You're not going to have the lag in communication between you and another partner. You just get to figure out what works and what doesn't work for your body, because everybody is so different and every experience is different. You can have sex with the same person for 8 years in a row, like I am, and every experience is different. So it's about learning, what feels good in your body first before you take that next step, before you bring that to a partnership. And if you get really solid in what feels good for you and what you like, what you don't like, then you're going to feel more comfortable going into number 3, which is expressing your needs. Again, we want to rewire any sort of beliefs first I know I keep coming back to mindset, but your mindset and your beliefs around sex are a really big barrier to you feeling pleasure and having a good sex life if those, sneaky limiting beliefs are there. So if you have any sort of, beliefs, especially around like being a good girl or a people pleaser, go back to episode 1, for you, like not having needs or not needing to express your needs or your needs not being as important as your partner's, because that shit's got to go. Your needs are important. You deserve to feel good. This is something that I really, really want to harp on you. So getting clear on what you want, what actually feels good for you through some sort of self-pleasure practice, kind of experimenting with yourself, figuring out what feels good, and then being able to comfortably and confidently express what you need from a partner if you're having partnered sex. Getting crystal clear on the belief that you deserve to feel good, your needs are important, just as important as your partner's. And I will say, if you're in a partnership with somebody who really cares about you and wants to maintain a good sex life, like the thing that I had to get through my head when I first started dating my now fiance is that it's not a burden for him to provide foreplay or take a little bit longer to get me to a state of desire or to spend a little extra time afterwards to make sure that I feel good, like whatever that scenario is. That actually brings him so much joy and pleasure to know that like I'm advocating for what I need and he knows how to support that. And if you aren't able to communicate about that kind of thing, it's going to be really frustrating because you're probably going to be left feeling like that wasn't great. And then of course, if that's the kind of sex you're having, you're not going to be craving more. So being able to, not only express what feels good for you, but also like asking for what you need and feeling okay in that asking and knowing that like your partner can't read your mind. So stop expecting them to know what you need without asking for it. And these are conversations you can have outside the bedroom if that takes some of the charge off of it, the like defensiveness that can sometimes come with having a conversation. We don't want to be playing the blame game of like, oh, you don't do this for me, so it doesn't feel good. Like, no, we are equal opportunity partners in this relationship. We are both taking responsibility for our pleasure. It's not your partner's responsibility to bring you pleasure. It is yours. They can help, they can assist in the process, but it is ultimately your ability, your responsibility to make sure that sex feels good for you. So being able to first know what you need, what feels good for you, and then second, being able to ask for that, whether that is, in the moment in the bedroom or, outside in a conversation, being like, hey, I think it would feel really good for me if you did this, or if you helped me do this, or if we incorporated this. Like you can, really express fully what feels good when you know what feels good. So I'm going to keep coming back to number 2. So again, having these conversations outside of the bedroom, not during an encounter, if historically conversations around sex haven't been the most helpful, a lot of the times it's just easy to get defensive. It's easy to be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing it right. Like on both sides of the equation. So if you're gonna have a conversation about what you need, what would feel good for you, maybe do that outside of your encounter. And then, when you are in the middle of, some sort of pleasure with a partner, you can gently direct. We don't want to be like super bossy. I guess I don't even like using the word bossy, but we want it to be an open dialogue. We want it to feel comfortable. And this is something that requires practice. And especially, if you weren't taught how to advocate for your needs, sexual or otherwise, it can feel a little uncomfortable. But just like any other muscle needs to build, this is a muscle that will continue to build. The more that you ask for things, start with something small. Like sometimes, if I am just feeling a little bit more tense and like I'm not ready to, have sex yet, I'll ask like, hey, would you mind like just giving me a back massage? I feel like I really need to relax. You can start with something like that. You can start with something as simple as like, hey, I think we need to have like silkier sheets or like fuzzier blankets or better lighting in our room to make it a better place for you to get intimate. Like this can start as small as you need to, and you get to continually build and stretch your capacity to ask for what you need. And you get to continue getting more comfortable having these conversations. I am so thankful that I'm in a long-term relationship with somebody who's willing to grow and experience some of the growing pains of being both, super sexually repressed people who got into a relationship with one another. But our relationship and our ability to communicate about our needs and really apply that to this area has been so healing for me, especially coming from this place where sex didn't feel safe and it definitely didn't feel good. Being with a partner who's willing to walk with you through that, who's willing to let you, create safety in your body, who's willing to help you have evidence that it is safe for you to, have pleasure and be in your body. Those are amazing things if you can experience that. So your partner can actually be a really helpful person in this scenario. And again, we don't want to be like playing the blame game with any of this stuff. If we are asking for what we need, we want it to be like a two-way street. We want them to be able to ask for what they need as well. So getting clear with yourself there. If you do have any stickiness around yourself asking for what you need, or if your partner asks for what they need, like how does that feel for you? These conversations and being able to ask for what you desire, acting on what you desire is so important because your satisfaction in your sex life, whether it's with yourself or with somebody else, often mirrors the rest of your life. Your ability to receive pleasure, your ability to ask for what you want, to vocalize what you want, to be embodied in your body, present in your body during intimacy, and to actually receive, to not feel guilty, to not feel shameful. That mirrors so much of your ability to receive things in other areas of your life, whether that's being able to receive compliments, being able to receive money, opportunities, love, whatever it might be. So if you're feeling sticky in some of these other areas, like maybe your financial situation doesn't look the way that you want it to, maybe you're really not great at accepting compliments and you tend to deflect them, take a look at your sex life. Like how much satisfaction is there as well? Because again, this often mirrors, and working at things at the level of your sexuality and sensuality is a really amazing opportunity to take that healing even deeper, literally. So first of all, you need to start to create ways to feel safe and connected into your body, creating a healthy relationship with your body, even outside of the context of intimacy and sex. Go back to episode 2 if you need to learn how to do that, if you're, really getting started on that journey, especially if you have some sort of experience where sex didn't feel safe for you, your body didn't feel safe. This is numero uno, most important thing for you to do. Even if you haven't had an experience like that, you really need to be able to create safety within your body, the ability to surrender, the ability to receive in order to have a satisfying sex life. And that's what we're here for, right? Then you're going to get really crystal clear on what feels good for you and what you want, preferably by practicing by yourself. Again, clearing out any sticky beliefs around what that means. If you have any sort of shame or guilt around self-pleasure, and I highly, highly advocate if you do have a self-pleasure practice that it involves actual physical contact. I know for women, it's really easy to use like toys, vibrators, things like that, which we love, great if that feels good for you, but actually having your physical hands on your body, especially if you've gone through a traumatic experience, can help deepen that connection and help it feel just a lot safer. And it actually just feels a lot more pleasurable if you can get to that place where even if you're literally just touching like your arms, your breasts, whatever, but having that physical, actual, tangible touch on your body is going to take this practice so much deeper. So experiment with yourself without shame, without blaming yourself, without making yourself wrong for whatever it is that feels good for you. There's no wrong answers. It's your sex life. It's what feels good for you. And then we're going to take what we learned there and express that to a partner, either in the bedroom or outside in a safe conversation, clearing out any muck around you, not being able to, get what feels good for you, not being able to have needs or them not being as important as your partner. Like clear that shit out, clear out those cobwebs, and start to, in small ways, if that feels safer for you, advocate for what you need. Like, hey, I think it would feel really good if you did XYZ, or if we did XYZ, or if we changed this in our environment, or if we did this first. Something I really like to remind women is often When we're experiencing frustration with our libido, it's not so much that we don't have it. It's just that sometimes we need to feel something that feels good first, and then desire happens, rather than the other way around, where desire happens out of the blue, like the fucking desire fairy, the libido fairy sprinkles fairy dust on you, and you're like, oh, I'm turned on. Does that happen sometimes? Yeah, for sure. But if it's not happening for you, that doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just means maybe you need to feel something that feels good in your body first before you actually get turned on. There's a book called Come As You Are. Great one, great resource if you want to learn more about, how this might be impacting you and your level of libido. But it's an excellent resource for just kind of making us feel a little bit more normal about that, because sometimes we do just need to feel something that feels pleasurable, feels good in our body in order to get into that space of turn on. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what you need. So learning that that's okay, and really, getting clear on what you actually need, what feels good for you, and what you and your partner can do together. If you want to do a yes, no, maybe list, those can also be a good thing to do with a partner or yourself. You can easily find one online. I know Sex with Emily has a resource for one, but it's basically a master list of all possible sex acts, at least, most of them. And you get to go through yes, no, maybe, like absolutely not. This is not something I want to try. Yes, I'm open to this. Maybe. Let's see. And that could be a good exercise if you're maybe not as comfortable talking about these kinds of things without some sort of prompting, filling out one of those lists, having your partner fill one out, and then coming together and talking about it, and then coming together. But it's remember, your satisfaction in your sex life, your ability to have and receive pleasure, ability to give pleasure, most importantly, ability to receive pleasure without feeling guilty, feeling like you need to reciprocate, mirrors so much in the rest of your life. And we're all in such a better place if we're well fucked, right? So there are some things that you can start working on, especially around the realm of safety in your body first, getting clarity on what you want, what feels good for you, finding ways to express that to your partner, doing a yes, no, maybe list if that feels good for you, just kind of prompting that conversation. And, knowing that working on this area of your life, whether that is in a relationship with yourself or in with a partner, creating and enhancing this sexual energy is one of the most sacred things that you can do. I'm a firm believer in that. I don't believe that sex is meant to be shameful. I do think that it's meant to be enjoyed. I think it's a way that we can really express a lot of things, whether that's with ourselves or with a partner. And if you feel that way and your sex life isn't giving you life like you want it to, let's start here, because ultimately it should be something that really fulfills you and pours back into your cup. And if you're anything like me and grew up, with a lot of shame and repression around sexuality, especially with women's pleasure, like, we're here to change that. And you, by taking a stand, understanding what feels good for you and advocating for it, you are literally creating a ripple effect and giving the other women in your life permission to do so, whether you talk about this or not. You being better fucked is going to influence your friends and your mom and your grandma and lineage and legacy and all of the things, like whether you like to believe it or not. So this work is important. And it gets to be fun too, right? Like, practice makes perfect. So I want all of you to have really juicy, really fulfilling sex lives, whether that is solo or with a partner. So take some of these resources, take these 4 steps that you can get started with today, and, really start to implement this, because again, it's meant to feel fun. It's meant to feel fulfilling. And I have a really awesome resource that you can download, goes more into depth on this topic about how to get what you want in bed, some practices that you can put in place that really build upon what we've talked about in this episode. So I will put that in the show notes if you want to take a look. Again, I want you to have juicy, fulfilling, amazing sex lives, because then you just show up in the world as even more of a baddie. So head to the show notes if you want to check out that resource, and practice makes perfect. So get out there, my juicy queens. I love you. I'll see you on the next ep.